What's up, guys? It's all about Mike 18 here with the movie review of The Dark Knight Rises. Guys, I'm sorry for this late review. I know this movie came out on Friday, July 20th, and this review is late. And this movie is highly anticipated. That's why I wanted to really get this review out there really quickly. But the reason why I waited till today, Tuesday the 24th, to watch this movie was because I wanted to save money paying to get in to go see the movie. Because at the movie theater where I go to in the summer time, they do a Bargain Tuesdays where you get in to a movie and you only have to pay $7 to go see a movie. So that is I'm trying to save money here. That's why this review is late. I just saw the movie today, Tuesday, a few hours ago, and now I am here ready to do my review of The Dark Knight Rises. Now, before I go any further in this review, I do have one thing I have to say. I would like to express my sincere sympathies to all of the victims, to the families of the victims, and to all of those that were injured in the Dark Knight Rises midnight premiere shooting that occurred in Colorado on Friday. I am I couldn't believe what I heard when I first watched the news, and I heard about that, and I just wanted to express my sincere sorrow. But anyway, that's the only, I just wanted to quickly mention that. I'm not going to talk about that in the rest of this review. This review is for The Dark Knight Rises, the movie that I just saw, and I really, really enjoyed this movie, guys. Highly recommend it. But before I get into what I'm going to talk about, which is a little bit about the story, I really want to talk a lot about the characters, because that is what I loved a lot about this film. We're all the characters in this movie. Then I want to talk a little bit about the action and the fight scenes, the visual effects, the ending, which, without spoiling it, I want to quickly talk about all that, and then I will give my rating of this film. But I also have two things to say. I will not spoil this movie. I do not give spoilers because I want you guys to be as surprised as I was when I went in and saw this movie. And two, I have not read the comics, the Batman comics, so all my knowledge comes from Christopher Nolan's movies. And I only saw two of his movies, and those two being The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. I never saw Batman Begins, which I will get into later in this review. Anyway, guys, first thing I want to talk about is the story of this movie. Now, this movie picks up right where The Dark Knight left off, but the setting is 8 years after the Dark Knight. So it's 8 years since Harvey Dent died, and it has been 8 years since the Joker was taken into custody by the police of Gotham City. And Bruce Wayne he hasn't shown his face around Gotham at all in the last 8 years. Hardly anyone has seen him. And with the disappearance of Bruce Wayne, obviously you are going to have the disappearance of Batman. So Batman hasn't even hasn't been around Gotham City at all. He has not been Batman for the last 8 years. And meanwhile, a new sinister, evil, badass villain is emerging with the name of Bane. He's a terrorist, and he is really one of the best villains I've ever seen put on film, besides obviously the Joker and besides some of the other villains and other great movies. But Bane was a really cool part of this movie. I loved this guy. This guy was awesome. And what Bane is doing, he's gathering an army together. He has something in store for. He has plans for Gotham, I should say. And Bruce Wayne realizes he must become Batman once again, even though he has suffered injuries from his fights, especially in the last movie, The Dark Knight. So he realizes he must become Batman again to save Gotham City from Bane and his army. So there you have it, guys. There's the plot of The Dark Knight Rises, basically trying to sum it up without giving anything away. And then we are obviously met with a whole bunch of new characters, which I'm going to talk about really quickly. I'm going to try to talk about it really quickly, I should say. I really have a lot to say about the characters and the cast, though. But for the story, it was really good. I enjoyed it. There were a few parts where I was a little confused about, but I had a few questions at the end of this movie, but you know what? They're little minor questions that I have. The majority of this, I understood the plot. I enjoyed it. I mean, I really did enjoy, I enjoyed this movie a lot. That's all I could really say. But anyway, the next thing I really quickly want to talk about is the cast the characters, but I'm gonna end up talking a long time about them because this cast, the characters in this movie were really, they were great. First guy I obviously have to talk about is Christian Bale playing Bruce Wayne / Batman. Christian Bale, great in The Dark Knight, I should say, and he was great in this too. I mean, he really was good in this again as Batman and slash Bruce Wayne. And here's one thing that I will warn you guys about, which is not a spoiler in any way. In this movie, you will see a lot more of Bruce Wayne than you do of Batman. In The Dark Knight, you saw a lot of Batman. You did. In The Dark Knight Rises, you see a lot of Bruce Wayne in the beginning of the movie, like the first 40 minutes of the movie. Then we see Batman. And then it goes from Batman, a lot of Batman, and then we go from like the middle to almost the end. We see just nothing but Bruce Wayne, which is absolutely fine by me. I enjoyed seeing just Christian Bale just play Bruce Wayne a lot in the middle of the movie, in the situation that he was in the middle of the movie, without spoiling anything. And then obviously he's Batman in the end of the movie, in the last hour or so of the movie. So there you have Christian Bale, obviously great as Batman. Then you have the cast that returned from the Dark Knight, namely Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, and Morgan Freeman. Michael Caine, of course, was great as Alfred. What's his name? Bruce Wayne's butler. Excuse me. Michael Caine was great in The Dark Knight. He was great in this as Alfred, of course, but we don't see a lot of Alfred that much in this movie. We do in the beginning of the movie. We see a lot of Alfred. Middle, we hardly see Alfred. In the end, we see Alfred a little bit. So that was great too. At least for Alfred, obviously, to come back, because I enjoyed Michael Caine's performance as Alfred. I think he does a great job. As for Morgan Freeman as Lucius Fox, he is in this movie, not as much. He is in this movie, though. Probably a little less than The Dark Knight, though, but that was fine by me. Morgan Freeman, of course, is good as Lucius Fox. I mean, all these actors play their roles so perfectly. I mean, that's the good thing about this movie. And then, of course, how can I forget the other cast member from the last movie? Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon is great always. I mean, I really enjoyed Commissioner Gordon's character. However, he wasn't in this movie as much. Just same thing like with The Dark Knight. He was not in it as much as he was in The Dark Knight, but he still was in the movie, mostly in the beginning and a lot in the end. He was very important in the end of the movie. And then, of course, like I said, all the old cast from the last movie, great. Now we have the new cast coming in. We have 3 new actors, 1 actress, I should say, that I'm going to talk about. First one that obviously has to get mentioned is Tom Hardy as Bane. Tom Hardy nailed this role as Bane. He was perfect as Bane. I really enjoyed that role. Bane was a very sinister, badass villain. I really enjoyed Bane in this movie. He was a real tough, one of the Batman's toughest opponents. He was very strong, very tough to beat, and I think Tom Hardy did a great job. I have one minor complaint about Bane, though, and people have been worried about this. That mask that he wears on his face that covers his mouth, people have said, oh, it's hard to hear him in the movie. You try to figure out what he's trying to say. There were a few scenes in this movie where I was trying to figure out what he was saying, but there were other scenes where he talked perfectly clear into it, and there were other scenes where I couldn't understand what he was saying, which was fine. It was okay. And then, of course, a lot of people were also worried about this actress, Anne Hathaway, playing Selina Kyle / Catwoman. I thought Anne Hathaway was great. I had no problems with her whatsoever. I would have loved to see her in, maybe 1 or 2 more fight scenes, though. I thought she could have been in a few more. I mean, she was in, 2 of them, but other than that, she really was... she was more Selina Kyle than she was more Catwoman, in my opinion. But which is fine. I enjoyed Anne Hathaway's performance. And the last one I have to talk about, which is personally one of my favorite characters in the movie. He's a new actor in the Dark Knight trilogy. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Detective Blake, or Officer Blake, I should say. He becomes detective later on, which is really, that's not a spoiler, really. Joseph Gordon-Levitt was one of my favorite parts of this movie. I enjoyed his character a lot. I really, really did. I thought he nailed the role as as Blake. I mean, when looking at the trailer, I saw him in the trailer in this one part, and I said, you know what, this guy's not going to be in the movie that much. I thought alright, maybe he's going to be in for 40 minutes total. This guy was in the movie a lot. He was in the movie for a good total, like an hour and 40 minutes of it. I mean, he was really important in this movie, and I enjoyed Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance. That was one of the best performances, along with Tom Hardy's. I mean, I really enjoyed Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this movie as Blake. Anyway, guys, that's the cast. Perfect cast. That was all these characters, just meeting all these new characters, seeing the old ones come back. Perfect part of this movie. Next thing I want to talk about, guys, is the sorry, I'm clearing my throat. I have to talk about the action and the fight scenes in this movie. There were a lot of cool fight scenes in this movie. The first fight between Batman and Bane was so cool. I mean, that was a long fight, too. I really enjoyed that first fight between the two of them. I mean, and it just showed how tough Bane was. I mean, Bane was just relentless. He just crushed Batman. I mean, he really did. And then he's in another part. He's blowing up parts of Gotham. He took down like 3 bridges, and then he blows up the football field. The thing we saw in the trailer. I mean, that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, where the whole middle, when Bane is just unleashing his plan for Gotham. I mean, I really enjoyed that part. But anyway, back to the action. The action was intense in this movie. There were a lot of cool fight scenes, especially in the end between Bane's army and then Batman and the other people that I'm not going to give away, that are fighting Bane's army. I don't want to spoil anything, guys. I mean, that was just so cool. The visual effects in this movie were amazing. Really enjoyed them. Had no problems with the action of the fight scenes. Maybe a few more fight scenes I would have liked to see between Batman and Bane, because I just love seeing those two clash against each other. But overall, great fight scenes for the ones that were in the movie. I mean, I'm serious, guys. And as for this movie's rating, it is rated PG-13. Kids can go see this movie. Any kid under maybe 11 or 12, I would not recommend they go see it, because some scenes might be a little frightening for them, like some of the fight scenes between Batman and Bane might be a little too much. Characters do die in this movie, so you do have that too you got to worry about. But parents, kids really can go see this movie. It's not as violent as people have been saying. Some people said this movie should have been rated R. They couldn't believe this movie didn't get an R rating. No, it's not that bad. I'm telling you, it's okay. I mean, kids can go see this movie. They will enjoy seeing this movie, like I did. And anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. Oh, yeah, the last thing, the ending, without spoiling anything, was an amazing ending. I really, really enjoyed this ending. And I don't think there were any post-credit scenes. I didn't stay that long, because this movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes. So after the movie ended and the credits started to roll, I'm like, you know what? No, I can't stay for a post-credit scene. I had to find a bathroom. I was holding it in throughout the whole movie, and I told myself I will not get up through this movie. That's how good this movie is. And I said, I'm not staying for a post-credit scene, but I don't think there was anyway, guys. But the ending of this movie was perfect. I mean, and I don't want to spoil anything, but one of the characters was, I did not see that coming at all. Let me just say that. With one of the new characters, I didn't, but that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, guys, to give my rating of The Dark Knight Rises, I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. Now, I was originally going to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10. The reason why I didn't was because there were a few parts of this movie that were connected to Batman Begins. And I had no clue what was going on in those parts of the movie, because I didn't see Batman Begins. I'm sorry, guys, but I never got a chance to see it. I did watch Dark Knight, like I said, a few nights ago, and I just never got a chance to see Batman Begins, which is fine. There are just a few parts where I did get a little confused about, because I believe they were connected to Batman Begins, because it involved characters I've never seen before. And I'm like, oh, you know what, that character must have been in Batman Begins. But that was fine. That was only maybe like 2 parts in the movie where I got a little confused because I didn't see Batman Begins. But that is why I deducted the movie score to a 9. And that was my fault only. That's not the movie's fault. That is probably the only reason why I gave this movie a 9 out of 10. Other than that, if I would have seen Batman Begins, I'm pretty sure I would have gave this a 9.5, maybe even almost a 10. I really enjoyed this movie, where the movie turns into, like, where it's the end of the movie, and it's just a war between Batman and Bane's army. I mean, I couldn't believe that I was seeing such epicness on screen. I mean, this movie completely blew me away, guys. 9 out of 10. I did not deduct the score because of Bane's voice. That was a minor problem I had. And there were a few other parts that weren't connected to Batman Begins that I did get a little confused about, but that was okay. That is the only reason why I deducted this movie score. So, guys, 9 out of 10. Highly, highly recommend this movie. I'm for sure going to buy it on Blu-ray, and I just might really want to go see this again. I mean, I've just been sitting for the last hour just saying to myself, you know what, I really enjoyed this movie. I really want to go see this movie again, you know. I'm thinking about it. I probably might not, but I don't know. Anything could happen. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Highly recommend you watch The Dark Knight Rises, and give you a little advice. Watch the first two Batman movies first before going to see this. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Bye, guys.